Well, this connection is quite the blast from the past, isn't it? Because today what we're doing is we're heading over to an idea tossed out by ELLIOTTE FRIEDMAN from October. But here's the thing, it's an October piece, yes. However, it's an October 2023 piece that we are going to be highlighting in today's video, because if you head over back to a 32 Thoughts article published by Friedman on October 10th, 2023, why Scheifele and Connor Hellebuyck stayed with the Jets, you will find a very particular idea that makes a lot of sense today. We're talking about the Vancouver Canucks, we're talking about the Oilers, and we're also talking about the Toronto Maple Leafs. Because one of the big stories that took place around this October period of the NHL season was the Sam Lafferty trade. Take a look at this. Back on October 8th, 2023, the Canucks acquired forward Sam Lafferty from the Leafs in exchange for a 2024 fifth-round pick. That was it. And Sam Lafferty, to open up the 23-24 season, was actually pretty good. He provided some constant offense and a hard-nosed style towards the front of the net. He was a very aggressive player. A lot of Canucks fans liked that, and he was so good that he ended up getting some extended minutes with Elias Pettersson throughout the course of the 23-24 year. The only problem was Lafferty kind of stunk for an extended portion of the year afterwards. He had a hot start but was never able to continuously go with that, and Pettersson struggled throughout the course of the season, and a lot of people would say it was the line mates that he was playing with. Oh, it's Ilya Mikheyev. Oh, it's Sam Lafferty, etc., etc. They weren't holding their weight, and eventually the Canucks traded Lafferty and Mikheyev away to the Chicago Blackhawks on June 26, 2024. That was a really big deal as well, but ultimately, if you go back over onto ELLIOTTE FRIEDMAN's 32 Thoughts from the time the first Lafferty trade was made, you'll find this. Thought number 4. Before Toronto traded Sam Lafferty to Vancouver, a nice pickup, the Maple Leafs called the Oilers. Edmonton has liked Lafferty for a while, poking around last season before he was moved by Chicago. It's obvious that that didn't happen, but the Maple Leafs asked about defenseman Vinny Desharnais. He fits what they are looking for. He's a favorite of the Oilers coaching staff. During an exhibition game in Calgary, head coach Jay Woodcroft put Vinny Desharnais out there as the extra skater when Jack Campbell was pulled in a 1-0 game. Desharnais went to the front of the net, putting on a great screen as Edmonton scored. I'd love to see that during the season. And so, this idea, all the way back from October 10th, 2023, was posted about one more time by Williston Rhinelander. Yeah, okay, that's kind of a funny name. Williston Rhinelander, I guess. This depends on Joni Hakanpää's health, but I wonder if the Toronto Maple Leafs are one of the teams in on Desharnais. He would be a direct replacement size and role-wise, as both are 6'7", 225, and excellent on the PK. Williston says that Toronto has called about Desharnais once before. This tweet was posted yesterday, and it cited the same idea from ELLIOTTE FRIEDMAN from 1 year ago about how the Leafs were asking for Desharnais in a Lafferty trade. In fact, we made a video about that same topic back when it was talked about initially, how, oh, Sam Lafferty, this new Canucks guy, was almost acquired by Edmonton, or they wanted to get a trade done with Edmonton. It just didn't happen. Funny enough, I'm looking at the thumbnail that we made a year ago. Vinny Desharnais had hair back then. Kind of interesting. But for Vincent Desharnais, with his name being tossed out there in trade rumors, obviously the fit with Vancouver hasn't really been there. He's great at penalty killing. There are some really good numbers that he brings in terms of those analytics, and him and Brannstrom did have an extended period where they were really good together, but ultimately, the mobility, the defensive awareness, everything that he does at 5v5, Vinny Desharnais has not necessarily been too great this season. I thought he had a good game yesterday, and I did note this in the post-game video for Vancouver, Colorado, that, hey, I did notice Desharnais was laying the body out. He was really physical, and he was actually making some good plays. I liked him yesterday, but that's maybe one of the only few games where I could stand out and say, yeah, he had a solid, extremely impressive game. A lot of the other games have been, okay, he's good on the PK, but what else does he do? This is sort of the role that Joni Hakanpää was supposed to have with the Toronto Maple Leafs, and if the Leafs were interested in this guy last year, Desharnais that is, would they not be interested in him once again? Now, sure, circumstances are different. Vinny Desharnais is making more money now compared to what he was making last year with the Edmonton Oilers. He's making $2 million a year for the next 2 seasons. Last year, he was on an ELC at $700K. So if the Oilers were trading this guy away to Toronto last year, then the Maple Leafs would have gotten all that value for sub $1 million. Obviously, there's a pretty noticeable difference. And with a team like the Maple Leafs, where they are so strapped up for cap anyway, you could say that maybe Desharnais priced himself out. Who really knows? Hakanpää, however, was a guy that was supposed to have a very similar role. So if you wanted to say there is some sort of a connection to be made there, then I wouldn't necessarily disagree. If you head back over onto that same tweet that was discussed, there were a few replies that were interesting. I wanted to go out there and read this. A lot of people are saying that Desharnais is bad, but he's younger, he actually has knees, and I think he's actually better than Joni Hakanpää. And included are some of the RAPM charts for both of these guys. Hakanpää and Desharnais both have a lot of negative value in terms of goals for per 60 and Corsi per 60, but oddly enough, Vinny Desharnais has very positive expected goals against and Corsi against numbers. Hakanpää does not. A reply says, the Canucks would have to take Simon Benoit in this situation, right? I'd settle for them taking David Kampf. Desharnais makes $2 million. I would hate to have that plus Benoit on the cap sheet next season, let alone this season. I'm guessing you would want Riley, somebody, McCabe, Tanev, OEL, and Desharnais. They'd have to take Benoit, in my opinion. And interestingly enough, I feel like a lot of the Vancouver discourse has bled its way onto the mainstream media because a lot of Leafs fans looking at this idea are like, no, hell no, he sucks, he's this, he's that, I don't want to get him, stuff like that, right? So I could totally understand if the overarching Vancouver Canucks sentiments have bled out to the point that now even Maple Leafs fans are like, oh, doesn't he play really poorly? Isn't he not good? And I know I've been on that train as well. He hasn't been great this season, but there is value to be had. If you want a physical guy, if you want a penalty-killing guy, he's very good when he doesn't need to move. That's the thing. If he's playing a PK where it's just kind of shift a meter to the right because the puck is on the right side, then shift a meter to the left because the puck is back at the middle, and then shift a meter to the left again because it's on the left side. If it's just very short, kind of chess match-like movement, Vinny Desharnais is good at that. He's got long reach, he's got a big frame, he can use it effectively, but when he's defending in transition, that's when he kind of gets caught out there, and when he tries to break the puck out, things don't look all too great either. Vinny Desharnais is certainly not the best player in the world, but he is somebody that I think definitely brings something of value to the game, especially if he plays every night like he had played yesterday against Colorado. So ultimately, if you're a Leafs fan, I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comments section below if this Vinny Desharnais is a player that you would be interested in. If so, what do you think the price is? If not, who would you rather go out there and target? Do you want to just wait for Hakanpää because he was announced to playing for Team Finland at the Four Nations tournament? He should be available sometime soon, right? But who really knows? Canucks fans as well, what are your thoughts about the idea of trading Vinny to the Toronto Maple Leafs? What would you want in exchange to make this trade go through? Comment section is your floor. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.